double meaning today. So, first of all, I have introduced myself as well. Kenneth Lee from Omni TV。大家好，我係日本 Omni 電視嘅粵語主播，大家好啊。OK， 多謝你哋大家今日出席嚇。I'm not the MC today, but I have a pretty important job to do. I want to make a land acknowledgement here because we are holding the event in Markham, city of Markham. So I have a land acknowledgement to make. The foundation to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers in Canada gracefully acknowledge the city of Markham is situated upon traditional territories of Anishinaabe peoples and Haudenosaunee peoples. Hopefully I didn't make it wrong in pronunciation. These territories are covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. The First Nation community encloses possibly to the city of Markham are the triple walls of Georgina Island. 我頭先做咗一個嘅土地嘅一個宣告嚇，因為我哋今日嘅活動咧係喺萬錦市舉行嘅。咁我哋頭先咧就話咧，因為我哋要尊重翻我哋萬錦市其實係喺原住民嘅土地上嘅，所以我哋都要 respect 我哋嘅原住民。Okay? So that's the job for me today. I would like to pass the mic to the next item is the national anthem. Okay, national anthem.
Thank you, Victoria. And now I'll just introduce myself before we get going. I'm Lindy Anderson, and I am your chair. I am your MC for the evening. I'm mixed heritage, Chinese and Métis. My Chinese name is Ngokme, and my indigenous spirit name is Boshwana Dawahaigan, and that means that I bring the drum, or I bring balance. Our family is Wolf Clan, so our responsibility in the clan system is we're known as protectors. I'm an authorized child protection worker, and we have our community safety people in the room. Shout out to York Region Children's Aid and the York Region Police. Thank you so much. And at my table, I'm an authorized child protection worker, but my cousin Dane is with Toronto Police Services. We're well represented in community safety here, so thank you. So I'm here today as the chair of the foundation to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers in Canada. And today is a very special day because it represents 100 years since the Chinese Exclusion Act on July 1st, 1923. And that was an effort on behalf of our government to exclude Chinese people from coming to Canada. You'll hear many speakers tonight talking about the increased head tax in an effort to exclude Chinese people. And that didn't stop our ancestors from coming. And so what happened was the Chinese Exclusion Act was implemented on July 1st, 1923, after 80,000 people came to Canada from China. They were recruited here specifically from our first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. He knew we could not build the railway system without the Chinese labor. He knew that it was a promise to BC to join the Confederation, and without building the railway system, BC would not have joined Canada. So for that, we are so immensely grateful to the 4,000 lives that were lost during the construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway system. And if you think about the 17,000 young, able-bodied men that were recruited here to build the railway system, and 4,000 died from treacherous work, premature blastings, falling off the cliffs, and poor malnutrition, and just they were overworked and ill-equipped for the Canadian weather and for the hardships of working on the railway. So today we honor them. Today we had a morning memorial wreath-laying ceremony at our monument at the foot of Rogers Centre on the fringe of Chinatown. And this evening we're having this spectacular dinner here. Over 350 people are in the room. We sold out literally within seconds, because this community is represented by so many people. If you have your little, hopefully you received some Canadian flags, and if you didn't, we have people here from Labour. If you're Labour, raise your hands. Labor groups. Do we have labor groups? We have labor groups in the room. We have social justice in the room. We have human rights in the room. We have educators in the room. We have community safety, policing, and child protection in the room. We have dignitaries in the room, and our politicians are here. And I'll mention throughout the night, I'll honor and recognize each and every politician. Most of them are speaking, but there's a few that aren't. So with that said, I'd like to welcome our Vice Chair, Mr. Derek Wu, so that he can provide a welcome address. Derek? Thank you. Thank you for Derek.
Good evening. My name is Derek Wu. I'm the Vice Chair of the Foundation. On behalf of the Foundation to commemorate the Chinese railway worker in Canada, and the organizing committee for this momentous 100-year anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1923. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you for being here with us tonight to honor our nation builders who suffered terrible injustice while building the Transcontinental Railroad, the Canadian Pacific Railway. Every year, on the 1st of July, Canadians celebrate Canada Day. However, on this beautiful day, we must also commemorate the sorrow, suffering, and the injustice brought on by the Chinese Exclusion Act 1923. Since 1989, every July 1st at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., come rain or shine, the Foundation has to have a commemorative wreath-laying ceremony at our Toronto monument located at number 4 Blue Jay Way. I welcome you to attend the ceremony, to reflect, lay a wreath, say a prayer, or simply just stand in silence to honor and remember the contribution of these brave Chinese railroad workers who helped to build the nation of Canada. The Foundation has included a commemorative book and a plaque. I think you guys all have it already with the dinner tonight event. We hope you enjoy reading the book, and we'll proudly display the book, the plaque, in your home or your office. To educate the younger and upcoming generation about our Canadian history and the contribution of the Chinese railroad workers. We will be delivering these books and plaques to schools across the country. We shall not forget. We have a big night tonight prepared for you. Thank you all for coming to honor the legacy of these great Chinese railroad workers who had the courage and sacrificed their life for us and Canada. Thank you. Now I'd like to Tim to come up and give a few words.
Thank you. My name is Tim Chung. I am the 100-year anniversary organizing committee chair. Along with my committee member, the last 7 months was an immersive, and we had a crash course on Canadian Chinese history. Now, what you're eating now is a plain congee and a dough steak. The reason why we started off with this dish is to remind us of the past, of how our pioneers and ancestors ate in Canada, how simple and how little they have. So this is a very simple dish to put us into place, into back in times. And you will see a little cup of brown sugar. Whenever they didn't have enough food and they needed energy to do the hard work, they were given a packet of brown sugar to mix with the green tea to give them a boost of energy. So if you would like to take some brown sugar and mix it with the green tea and see and taste what our ancestors have been through. So I welcome you to participate in this simple meal. Thank you.
So this is a reminder that the Chinese laborers were brought over here. They were paid less than the non-Chinese workers, and they worked harder and longer. The Chinese workers had to buy their gear. The Chinese workers received rotten food. The Chinese workers did not receive the same medical care and lodgings than the non-Chinese workers did. And at that time, in the late 1800s, it was the predominant society, or the dominant society, which was white people. And I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable if you're not Asian. And though at that moment in time, in the late 1800s, that was the discrimination that our Chinese ancestors faced. So now I would like everybody, please, in honor of our Chinese ancestors and the 4,000 lives that were lost to build the railway system, I'd like to have a moment of silence while you're having your soup and you're thinking about the foods that our countrymen ate and were provided when they came to Canada. We know sugar has no nutritional value, and it was very strategic on the railroad foreman to provide sugar so that the Chinese workers could work longer, harder. Thank you. A moment of silence, if we may, please. Thank you. Beautiful, thank you for that. Before we bring on our singers from the Toronto School of Music, Canada, I just wanted to acknowledge that my family is here with me today, and how immensely proud I am that they're sitting here with our BMO sponsor. Hooray, thank you to BMO. I want to say turn the room blue, BMO. We love BMO. And BMO was present at the morning replaying ceremony as well. And then we have the Ralph Lee table in the center here. And Ralph Monkey Lee was the oldest living head taxpayer to receive our Prime Minister at that time, Stephen Harper, the Honorable Stephen Harper, the apology on June 22nd, 2006. And my grandfather was 106 years old, the oldest living head taxpayer on that day. And there was only 6 living head taxpayers. And our family carried the ceremonial last spike on the Redress Express. And we brought that ceremonial last spike that was gifted to our community from Pierre Burton to bring and to give to Stephen Harper in the railway room, the same railway room that Sir John A. Macdonald, our first Prime Minister, made the decision to bring and import Chinese labor. And so when I said I was Toy San, it's from southern China. And whenever anyone introduces me, they always introduce me as Landy Anderson, Toy San. And And anyways, so that said, I would we'll be talking more about you'll hear more about the June 22nd apology. You'll hear more about other events that were organized in remembrance of the 100-year of the Chinese Exclusion Act. But in the meantime, now we're going to have some entertainment from the Toronto School of Music Canada. What a treat. Enjoy, folks.
大家晚上好。咱们中国的铁路工人，在过去的岁月里，为了他们美好的生活，为了加拿大的铁路建设，艰苦奋斗，付出了艰辛的劳动，但是呢，他们遭受了不公平的待遇。我们向铁路工人们致敬。我今天唱的这首歌叫做《敢问路在何方》，因为我们的铁路工人，他们不知道他们的未来是什么，他们的路在哪里。Okay, everybody, good evening. Chinese workers suffering so much wearing in the past year, and they did a very, very hard job for Canada Railway. They contributed so much, but at that time, they did not know where will be the road, what would be the future. So that's why today I'm singing this song. The name is Where is the Road? The Chinese name is 敢问路在何方. Thank you. 你挑着担，我牵着马。
And now you're going to have a very special treat. This is the lion dance, and the lion dance signifies a very special event. We only bring our lions out to commemorate a special event or ceremony. So that's how you know that today is so special that the lions are here with us. The lion dance originated when there was one lion in northern China, and what happened is by the time southern China contributed the second lion, and so that's why you often see two lions in the lion dance. That's not how it started, but that's how it is today. And when these dancers, what you'll do is you'll see the footwork. The footwork of the dancers is kung fu moves, and so they have quite fancy footwork. And at the end of the dance, what they do is they spit the greens. When the lion spits the greens, it is good luck and a blessing to each and every person that's here in this room. The lion brings good luck, and the lion brings each and every person here a blessing. And what's happening is that the lions will ward off the evil spirits. And so now, we are going to welcome Sifu Ian Chan's Northern Legs and Southern Fists Kung Fu Dance Club. Thank you. Shortly after graduating, the city of Oshawa also commissioned her to make a mural for the newest office, which is the Teaching City, and unveiling of the mural occurred in December of 2018 and was presented by the Mayor of Oshawa, John Henry, and also sponsored by BMO. Anyways, I love this BMO relationship. And by the way, Alderville First Nation, we have a solar farm. And guess who Alderville First Nation does banking with? BMO. We're turning the room blue, BMO folks. And Leanna lives in Oshawa with her French bulldog Hector, working from home and creating in her spare time. She has been exploring the use of clay, creating small sculptures and figurines, mostly centering around nature, plants, seedlings, and fungi. She loves fungi. And remember, Leanna is a descendant of a toy son, head taxpayer, and railroad worker. This is the great-granddaughter of Mr. Ralph Monkey Lee. So now we're raffling off these two pieces of art. the pieces of art, because her name, her indigenous spirit name is Speaks to Thunder. One is Speaks to Thunder, and one is Dancing Lightning. And those are the Thunderbirds. And the Thunderbirds are so important in the indigenous community because they carry our prayers up to Creator. The Thunderbirds are very powerful. So that is big medicine, what you see there. Please buy a ticket because the donations are going back to the foundation. Let's get a picture. The donations are going back to the foundation and some proceeds to the artist. But again, beautiful, thank you. So everyone, Albert will match and Leanna has donated art. And so please, we're gonna go around with these donation boxes now. Bio Seaweed Gel, that's Leanna and Helen. Beautiful, thank you for volunteering. And if you could just walk slowly around the room, okay? Don't be shy and feel free to donate or buy raffle tickets for the art. Thank you very much, folks. And don't be shy. Come up and get a picture with this artifact. This will be part of our traveling museum. Thank you. Each for us. But we're going to come up and have a photo opportunity and have a photo opportunity. So if you're a member of parliament, an MPP, or a speaker, or a member of the board, can you come up and can we take a picture with Senator Victor O?
Happy Canada Day to everyone. It is my great honor to join you for tonight's celebration, Canada's 156th birthday. And I'm pleased to say that today we truly have a wonderful weather. Even the God is with us, celebrating Canada's 156th birthday. And I started my day with a parade in Port Credit, Mississauga for 2.5 kilometers. And in the afternoon, I was invited to join Citizen Court Judge Albert Wong's swearing-in ceremony for 25 or 30 of the new Canadians. And tonight, I had just came from another celebration of Canada Day, and now we are together. This is probably one of the most important days in Canada, July 1st. But besides July 1st, we also have a dark side of the story on July 1st. Today, as we gather here to commemorate 100 years marks the Chinese exclusion from Canada, it is essential to acknowledge that immense contribution made by Chinese Canadian immigrants, particularly the Chinese railroad workers, who plays a pivotal role in building the Canadian Pacific Railway. This event served as a tribute to this nation's builder who overcame incredible hardship and make enduring contribution to the development of our great nation. The construction of Canadian Pacific Railway was endurous in endeavors that spanned thousands of miles, traversing treacherous landscape and demanding intense labor. The Chinese railway workers faced daunting challenges, including dangerous working conditions, inadequate provisions, and potentially discrimination. They tirelessly enduring harsh winters, dangerous dynamite blasts, and back-breaking labor, and in all pursuit of connecting our nation from coast to coast. Their contribution was monumental as they overcame incredible odds to complete the railway on time, a feat that not only facilitated transportation and commenced but also help shape the social and economic landscape of Canada. The Chinese railway worker, with their unwavering dedication and unmatched work ethic, left indelible mark on our country's history. It is with our remembrance that we pay tribute to these unsung heroes, the backbone of the railway's construction. They not only brave the physical challenges of their labor, but also persevere in the face of systematic racism and exclusion. They were denied of basic rights and privilege that should have been afforded to them as equal. Yet their contribution was integral into the very foundation of our nation. I just want to quote my senator friend, indigenous senator, Senator McCollum. She is the residential school survivor, and she said, "We have the right to be here. We have the right to feel safe. We have the right to have a voice." Let's give her a round of applause. It is within the context we must also address the darker side of our country's history. The period of Chinese exclusion, despite the invaluable contribution of the Chinese immigrants, they face discrimination, prejudice, and the dehumanizing effect of exclusionary policy. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1923 stood in direct contradiction to the principle of multiculturalism and respect for diversity that we hold dear. As we remember tirelessly efforts of Chinese railroad workers and their immense contribution to our nation, we must also confront the painful reality that their descendants were subjected to exclusion and discrimination. This serves as a sober reminder that principle of equality and justice should never be compromised based on one's race, ethnicity, or origin. Today, we honor the Chinese railway worker and the generation of Chinese Canadians who follow. We recommend ourselves to the value of multiculturalism and inclusivity. We must strive to create a society with the contribution of all individuals, regardless their background, are recognized and celebrated. Only by acknowledging and learning from injustice of the past can we build a broader, more inclusive future for all Canadians. In paying tribute to the nation's builder who constructed the Canadian Pacific Railway, let us also reflect on the broader context of Chinese exclusion and the importance of upholding our core value of multiculturalism and respect for diversity. Together, let us forge a path forward that embraces our shared history, acknowledges past injustice, and ensuring that Canada remains a beacon of inclusiveness where everyone individual is affordable equal opportunity to thrive. Thank you, merci beaucoup, 谢谢。今天晚上我非常高兴和大家在一起，我们共同纪念我们的前辈。
Wreath-laying ceremony. Barbara is a very good friend of the foundation, and we're so happy to have her with her, Barbara, and Max with us today. Welcome, Barbara.
25 years ago, James and Vera Kahn invited me to go to the memorial to the Chinese railway workers on the morning of Canada Day. And I was pleased to accept that invitation. But before I went, I did some research, and I realized that although I considered myself a fairly well-educated Canadian, I knew almost nothing of the history related to the Chinese railway workers or many other acts of systemic racism and discrimination involving Chinese Canadians. And as I started to do that research, my husband Max and I, understanding that our country would not be as it is today without the completion of the railway, we made a decision that every year on Canada Day, we would go first to the memorial to the Chinese railway workers to thank them for helping to build and complete our country. Let's be real, but for the railway, British Columbia would have gone with California. So our country as we know it is the result of the work, the hard work, the loss of lives that came in the completion of the railway. And so we come every year, and we also do research continuously. We often go to British Columbia, where we have family, and 2 years ago, we drove to BC and back, and we went through Lytton in the Fraser Valley, just after it had been burned down. And we've all seen the pictures of that. But near Lytton was a camp, a very treacherous camp, where many of the railway workers lived while they were doing that work. So we continue to learn. We're very excited about the new museum, the Chinese Canadian Museum in Vancouver, that's opening today. So I think learning our history, our real history, our full history, is an important part of having a country without discrimination, without hate, and with true inclusion and equality. And we are inspired, as I know many of you are, to continue those struggles, to continue that work in order to have the country that those railway workers never had while they were here. Thank you very much.
Halfway through the book. So this is the book that you've received. And it starts at the front. The agenda's there. The table sponsors are there. The menu is there. So if the stories in the book, many people contributed to put this book together. And there's no beginning and no end. So it starts with today's celebration and today's honoring and remembrance event. And then when you get halfway through the book, you'll notice it goes upside down. And you have to flip the book over and start reading from the other end, upside down. And the reason why we did that is because there is no front, there is no back. This is a chapter in Canada's history. and it will continue for the next 100 years. And now everybody in this room has responsibility to carry that history. And this book is a reminder. This is not a program. After you go to the event, you usually keep the program for a bit and then discard it. This is a book where it has an ISBN number. It will be posted virtually on our website. We hope to see it in references. We hope that you'll reference the book. And we put the menu in because it's a historical record of today's event. And besides, you want to know what dish you're having next. And you can see the speakers. The speakers are, the agenda is in the book as well. So anyways, now I'd like to call, and if you've noticed that I didn't follow the agenda. So we're going to have our, next is going to be our keynote address by Arlene Chan. We're very lucky. Arlene has been interviewed all over the city by CBC, by the newspapers and the radio. We're very lucky to have Arlene with us today. Thank you, Arlene. She is our first keynote speaker.
Thank you very much, Landy. So, happy Canada Day. Who's having a good time tonight? Woo! Excellent, excellent. Great. So, we are here at this wonderful gala. You're not at home in your backyard firing up the barbecue, so it's wonderful that you're here tonight. So, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to reflect and to remember, and we want to pay tribute to the legacy of the early Chinese. Their hard work paved the long and challenging road to the thriving communities of today. July 1st is both a day of sadness and a day of joy. For Canadians all across Canada, it's a day of joy, but for the Chinese community, it is sad and it is joyful. And it is sad because 100 years ago on this day was the enactment of that Exclusion Act that has been mentioned so often. This day is also a day of joy because we can celebrate how far we've come in 100 years and what we've achieved. And though we can never make up for what was endured in those early years, we are very, very proud of the lasting contribution to Canada. I know you've heard a lot about our history, but I just want to go a little bit over our history, and I want to talk about 1788 was our first Chinese who arrived here. And it was a very small group of 50 Chinese who landed on Vancouver Island to build a trading fort. And those Chinese were left, they were abandoned and left on Vancouver Island. And who helped them? Our Indigenous people. So there we have this strong connection going back to 1788. The second grouping of Chinese arrived for the Fraser River Gold Rush of 1858. And that was for Gumsan, and these Chinese that came, they wanted to become rich by coming to Gold Mountain, coming to Gumsan. But it's the construction of the western portion of the Canadian Pacific Railway that attracted the largest number of Chinese people in those early years. A transcontinental railway had been promised to the colony of British Columbia to join Canada as its sixth province. And as we heard, if British Columbia did not get that railroad, British Columbia would have been part of the United States. So I can't imagine our country, which is now from sea to sea, from coast to coast, without that British Columbia. So I know Landy Anderson spoke so eloquently, so passionately about the history, so please bear with me, but I think the story is really worth repeating over and over again. So there was a labor shortage. There were not enough people to build this railway. So it was with great reluctance that our first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, accepted the proposal to bring over thousands of Chinese workers. And there was so much resistance from politicians, the labor union, the media, and other Canadians. But in the words of John A. Macdonald, quote, "If you want a railroad, you'll have to accept the use of Chinese labor. If you won't have Chinese labor, you won't have a railroad," end of quote. So over 15,000 Chinese workers arrived and making up 3/4 of the workforce to build the railway. Of course, the Chinese faced many, many challenges. They were given the most challenging work. They had to haul away debris, lay down the tracks, and over 600 bridges, like this one here, was built to cross over the rivers and the valleys. Blasting through the Rocky Mountains was another very dangerous task. The Chinese used dynamite and then later on nitroglycerin, and many, many lives were lost. And added on top of that, were so many other accidents, the harsh climate, the lack of medical aid, disease, malnutrition, and other injuries that took their toll. Despite these challenges, the construction was finished on time and under budget. So imagine that, on time and under budget to complete what was regarded as the most challenging engineering feat of that time period. So how was the Chinese workforce thanked? They were not invited, they were not included in the historic moment at Craig Lake for the driving of the last spike. So you do not see one Chinese face in that group of workers. Instead, the government enacted a law that discriminated solely against the Chinese people. We don't want any more Chinese coming into Canada, so we're going to have a head tax to discourage anyone from coming. It started at $50, doubled to $100, and then went to $500. At the time, you could have bought 2 houses in Vancouver. James Pond, he was a head taxpayer, and you can see his head tax certificate pictured above. His story is among the 80,000 plus Chinese who paid the head tax to come to Canada. They came at great sacrifice, and it took many, many years for many of these men to repay that head tax. So James Pond is the co-founder of the foundation to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers. And Mr. Pond was 5 years old when he arrived. And in his words, he had to pay $500 for the head tax, and his mother had to also pay $500. So that was $1,000 in total, which was quite a sum of money, as he said, in those days. And it was 1922, and it took his father 17 years to repay this loan. So like Mr. Pond, the Chinese kept coming. So the Chinese immigration was not deterred as intended by the Canadian government. So a harsher solution was needed. So on July 1st, 1923, the Chinese Immigration Act now bans virtually all Chinese from coming into Canada. The door was slammed shut. No more Chinese to come into Canada for 24 years. The very few exceptions were merchants, diplomats, and students, and Canadian-born Chinese who were returning back to Canada from China. We know this as the Chinese Exclusion Act, and that law was in effect until 1947, and in that time period, less than 50 Chinese came into Canada. My own parents lived through this time period of the worst of times when discrimination and prejudice was at its worst. In addition to the Chinese Immigration Act, there were over 100 anti-Chinese laws and policies in place. The Chinese could not vote, they could not run for public office, they could not go into professions like law and medicine. They were restricted or banned from where they could work, where they could live, even where they could spend their leisure time. My father, Doyle Lum, paid the $500 head tax when he arrived in 1921. He had a dream to bring over his family, his parents, and his siblings, but that dream was never realized because 2 years after my father arrived was the introduction of the Exclusion Act. My mother, Jean Lunn, was born in British Columbia. She was a woman before she got married. She had to go to a segregated school for Chinese, Japanese, and Indigenous children. On July 1st, Chinese children, even if they were born here or they were naturalized, all the children, all the adults, all the Chinese living in Canada had to register for an identification card. And this is the card that was issued to my mother when she was 4 years old. My mother moved to Toronto during the Depression years, and she met my father through a matchmaker. And you have to know that at that time period, the ratio of men to women was 18 to 1. This is what we call the Bachelor Society era, a result of the head tax and the Exclusion Act. Mostly men, we call them married bachelors because most of them were actually married and their wives were in China. So when my mother married my father, she did not know this until a few years later, but she lost her citizenship, even though she was born in Canada. She had to take on the official status of her husband, and my father's official status was alien. So my mother turned from being a citizen to becoming an alien in Canada. So in stark contrast, my siblings and I, 6 of us, we were raised through the better years. So after World War II, for many, many reasons, largely because of the contribution of Chinese Canadians who served during the war, the Chinese got the right to vote, to run for public office, and to go into professions, move out of Chinatowns, and participate in all walks of life. I think back to my youth, and thankfully so much has changed since those pre-war years, and many Chinese Canadians have broken glass ceilings. We now have a voice as senators, councillors, members of parliament, mayors, writers, artists, designers, activists, and so on. And I think of Douglas Jung, who was the first Chinese Canadian politician. I think of Norman Kwong, the first Chinese Canadian professional football player, and also the first Chinese Canadian lieutenant governor of Alberta. I think of K.Dog Hip, the first Chinese Canadian lawyer. He tried 3 times to get into Oxford Law School. Finally, he was successful, opened up his law office in Chinatown in Toronto here. And when he was trying to get his article in, no one would article him because he was Chinese. So he found a position at a Jewish law firm. So, and this later on was such a strong connection that Dr. and Irving Kimmel, the Jewish Canadian lawyer, they were instrumental in the repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act. We now have a Chinese Canadian archive, a newly opened Chinese Canadian museum that opens today officially. We have university and college courses all across Canada. There are many permanent tributes like the memorial to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers in Canada. The moving wreath ceremony this morning at the monument honors the thousands of Chinese laborers and hundreds who perished in the construction. We cannot take for granted their sacrifice in leaving behind their wives and children, leaving their villages, and venturing overseas to an unknown land. What did they want? Like other newcomers, a better life for their families. Canada is a nation of immigrants, and we've all come here at one point or another from another land. So on this day, a national day of celebration, we come together and give thanks for living in a country where millions have arrived as newcomers over the centuries. We pay tribute to the Chinese workers who put their lives on the line to build the railway. We remember the Chinese Immigration Act and other injustices of the past. The Low-Lock Period, a term of respect for the older overseas Chinese, were gold miners, railroad workers, and head taxpayers. They opened the doors wider for opportunity and prosperity, the door openings that we continue to pry open wider to this day. I'm so privileged to be given so many opportunities to tell our history. It's rewarding to hear how many people did not know about our history. It's heartwarming that when people recognize that we are more alike than different. It doesn't matter where we've all come from. We might not look the same, we might not share the same ancestry, but we share similar values, hopes, and dreams that are universal across race,
true test of times is not when times are good, it's when times are not so good. And of course there are checks and balances in place to help us to be inclusive, to embrace our diversity, to foster a sense of belonging. But these alone are not enough. I thank Dr. Joseph Long, who reminds us of the fight against CTV and campus giveaways. How the Chinese communities fought for an apology in 2006 and some retribution for our head taxpayers and their spouses. Each one of us needs to know our history, dark chapters and all. Our country's greatness is the sum of all of our stories. We must remember the early men and women who struggled and sacrificed so much. We must live our lives worthy of the price that they paid for us to be here. We all have a role to play to continue building on the momentum to make a stronger, more inclusive, and more just country for our children and the generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite MP Sean Chen and MP Jean Yip. Please come. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 大家好，大家好，大家好. It's a wonderful privilege and pleasure to be here tonight to join the foundation to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers for this acknowledgement of an incredible part of Canada's history. Of course, we are here on July 1st, celebrating the 156th anniversary of Confederation. And to be here, to stand here as elected Chinese Canadian MPs, it's important for us to reflect upon the journey, the struggle and the sacrifice that it took for this moment to even be fathomable. And of course, you all know through the incredible keynote by my friend Arlene Chan, the history of the head tax, the 17,000 railroad workers of Chinese descent who came to Canada between 1881 to 1884, only to then face barriers to inclusion and participation in Canadian society when the Chinese Exclusion Act was enacted on July 1st, 1923. We have come a long way from those times. Yet, over the past 2.5 years, we have seen the rise of anti-Asian hate. We have seen communities subjected to violence. And this is where education is so incredibly important. Today we honor our past, we honor the struggle and the sacrifices of the Chinese who came to this country. We honor the fighters like Qin Lung who stood up against the Chinese Immigration Act and fought for family reunification. We honor trailblazers like Dr. Joseph Wong, who founded Yihong and fought against discriminatory media practices. We continue together to build a better Canada. The question is, what do the next 100 years look like? And ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you and I challenge all Canadians to work together, that we never repeat mistakes of the past, that we continue to build an even better country. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for honoring history, and thank you for standing up for a better Canada. I wish you a most successful celebration, and it's an honor for us to be here as Chinese Canadian representatives. I pass the microphone to my good friend and colleague, the MP for Scarborough Agincourt, Jean Yip.
So I would just like
Director, National President of Chinese Canadian National Council, CCNC. He's the founder and chair of Yihang Center for Geriatric Care. He's the founder and chair for Alpha Education and Wang Avery Asia Pacific Peace Museum. We're very proud to have Dr. Joseph Wang here as a speaker tonight. Thank you for everything that you do in the Chinese community and everything that you did on the head tax. You can't talk about the railroad workers without talking about the head tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. I'm very honored to be here tonight, to be together with you, thinking of the consequences of this racist legislation. This Chinese Exclusion Act actually is a continuation of the racist head tax, in the same spirit, with the hope of excluding Chinese coming to Canada. Our pioneering forefathers, who have paved the way with their blood, sweat, and lives, so that we could enjoy a more equitable Canada today. In the past half a century, we have come a long way, as indicated by Sean. There have been a lot happening. We know that in the NTW5, which happened in 1979, we won a great victory against CTV's racist documentary called Canada Skip Away. In 2006, we forced the Canadian government to apologize on the head tax redress, and that is the work of all of you, of all the head taxpayers, their offsprings in Canada. It shows that we have to fight to get equality in Canada. Our community has been labeled a model minority. Indeed, we are proud to be a model minority. But model minority is now defined as not to lie down and play dead. Model minority is one that is willing to stand up against injustice, that is willing to stand up for the rights and justice, that is willing to work together with other minorities to fight for inclusion, to fight for equitable treatment of everyone in Canada. That is what we are here for. And that is what our forefathers, our pioneers who have come to Canada, who bear the brunt of racism in the last 150 years. And up until now, we know that in the past 3 years of anti-Chinese and anti-Asian racism during the pandemic, we still have a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment here. So keep up with your good work. Politics is not a dirty word anymore. Politics is a survival. We have to involve in politics in order to survive, in order to gain our equal status for ourselves, and also for our children and grandchildren. And thank you so very much for tonight, and all of you to be present here, to remember our forefathers who gave their lives and blood so that we can enjoy a better Canada today. Thank you very much.
Paul. We know that this is a busy day for you. Canada Day for our MPs is so busy. So it means so much, Paul, that you are with us today. Thank you. And I see you've got friends over there at the York Regional Police. Okay. You're in good company. Thank you, Paul. Got a mic.
Good evening. Thank you so much, ladies, for the kind introduction. I know you're really formal here. And I'm glad to be here with you all tonight. As introduced, my name is Paul Chang. I'm the Member of Parliament for Markham Unionville and also the Parliamentary Secretary for Diversity and Inclusion. Today we gather to remember a somber chapter in our past, one that saw the enactment of a law that deeply impacted the lives of Chinese immigrants and their descendants. On this solemn occasion, I would like to express my sincere regret for the Chinese Exclusion Act and the profound impact it had on individuals, families, and communities. We must acknowledge the discrimination that occurred and work collectively to ensure such injustice is never repeated. But amidst this dark chapter, a glimmer of hope emerges. The remarkable stories of Chinese railway workers, those brave men overcame immeasurable hardships to build the Canadian Pacific Railway, a feat that united our vast land from coast to coast. Despite the adversity they faced, the Chinese railway workers built communities and found solace in each other. Their stories of perseverance inspired us to do this day, reminding us of the power of unity and resilience. Today we honor the memory of those courageous individuals. We pay tribute to the unyielding spirit and the profound impact on a nation. As we reflect on the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act, let us renew our commitment to building an inclusive society, one that embraces diversity, cherishes our shared history, and ensures that every Canadian, regardless of the background, has the opportunity to thrive right here in Canada. I'd like to also give a shout out to my former colleagues from York Regional Police. And I ask you, gentlemen and ladies, to please stand up and take a bow. So, these are my former colleagues from York Regional Police. I'm so happy to be able to have served with them for the last 28 years of my life. So I'm happy to be joined here with them and all of you here. I have lots of old friends in this room, and I'm sure I'm going to make some new friends tonight. Thank you so much for inviting me. Andy, could I ask you to come up for...
I'd like to remind everybody that we had a very special guest in the crowd, Alfred. And Alfred agreed to match the donation box. So can I get my donation girls up here, please? Last call for donations. Albert, donation girls, can you come up? From Bio Seaweed Gel, folks. Bio Seaweed Gel donation girls. Thank you. Alfred agreed to match whatever's in this box. And we're so happy to have such a generous donor. Last call for the raffle on the artwork and donations. Last call. And the girl's going to walk around the room slowly. Thank you. Go ahead. Walk around the room slowly for the artwork and for the donations. And thank you, Alfred. Alfred, thank you for your generous donation to match the donation box. Folks, the food has been coming out all night at lightning speed, but we still have about another hour worth of the agenda, hour and a half worth of the agenda to go. We really want you to stay with us. Just hang in there because we've planned this evening until 10 o'clock. We figured you'd be eating until about 9:30 or so. So now we'll be quiet for the remainder, the second half of the speakers. It won't be the same hustle and bustle. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker. And the next speaker is CCNC Toronto, or Chinese Canadian National Council Toronto Chapter. This is the Board of Directors. And I'm going to let him, Mr. Luke, I'm going to let him pronounce his first name so I don't butcher it. So proud of the work that you're doing here for CCNC Toronto Chapter. Thank you for the good work you're doing.
Thank you. My name is Fei Xi. That's my first name and last name is Liu. Thank you everyone, and I'm here on behalf of CCNC Board and also all the staff and the volunteers and members. So on this special occasion, I want to say something. I want to call all Chinese Canadians, let's be a good ally. So today on the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Exclusion Act, we remember the unfair treatment imposed on Chinese Canadians. The Exclusion Act for Chinese Canadians, for Chinese, it's long-term suffering. For Canada, it's a century of shame. We reflect on our past and will join the fight against racism. To make a real impact, we must unite with other marginalized communities. We must be a good allies for other marginalized communities. Racism intertwines with sexism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, classism, ableism, religion-based discrimination, and so on. Let's educate ourselves on the struggles of other communities. To have the power to amplify their voices, challenge stereotypes, to build solidarity by sharing their stories and perspectives online and offline. We combat exclusion and promote inclusiveness. 让我们学习其他边缘化社群的抗争，我们有能力放大他们的声音，挑战刻板印象，建立互助团结，分享他们的故事和观点。我们可以抵制排斥，促进包容。Let's question biases, including our own biases in our Chinese communities, and promote fairness, building coalition with other marginalized communities is the key. Together, our collective voice becomes stronger, breaking down the walls of discrimination and racism and other forms of discrimination. Chinese Canadians, let's be good allies. Let's be the change that we need, we want. Creating fair and inclusive society for all. We can make a significant difference within our community and beyond. Thank you.
Cultural Center of Greater Toronto. Thank you so much for the good work that you do in the Chinese community. Go ahead.
建造呢個鐵路，呢個鐵路咧係1871年就呢個鐵路咧係1871年咧係 BC 省係加入呢個聯邦嘅。當年咧佢係要求咧要整一條鐵路由呢個溫哥華去呢個橋北。如果佢唔做咧，佢可能咧就會脱離加拿大，就加入呢個美國。所以我哋嘅華工咧係好偉大，佢哋咧好多商人都做到呢件事，所以我哋係好懷念呢啲先田多謝。咁另外咧，我文化中心咧，我哋係追求乜嘢咧？我係追求係和平、平等，同埋唔好有種族歧視，同埋係奉獻 distribution。Thank you.
And he was the head taxpayer. And James started the foundation to commemorate the Chinese railroad workers in Canada. And James rode the Redress Express with my grandfather, Mr. Ralph Lemke Lee. And after James passed, he decided to have a memorial scholarship in James' name. And for the last several years, we've been asking students to provide essays. And I teach at Trent University. I read a lot of essays, let me tell you. And sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. So we decided that we wanted to connect with the younger generation. And we wanted to extend our scholarship from post-secondary to high schools and to grade schools. And now I'm putting a call out to all the teachers in the room, that all the teachers in the room would invite your students to learn about our history. On our website, on FCCRWC, we have teachers' resources, and we'd like teachers to invite teachers to come to our website and use those teachers' resources. So this year, what we've decided to do was we put together a video scholarship. And that video scholarship, we're going to show 3 videos. And in that scholarship, we're also going to have a presentation to one of the winners. So these are the 3 winners. And this is the first year in the 100th year of the Chinese Exclusion Act that we've decided to have a video scholarship award. And now, please, everybody, these are our young people. And one of our award winners is here in the room with us today, Cameron Yan. And we will invite Cameron to come up and to receive her award. But in the meantime, if I could please ask for everyone to keep it down. And when we're finished the awards, I skip the agenda. I'm going to have Carrie come up after the videos. So now, can I get the house, can I have everyone's attention, please? We're going to watch these youth, our young people, that have spent a lot of time making these videos on our behalf. We're going to show them that respect of our community, to honor our youth in their efforts to raise awareness to the Chinese contribution to the building of the railway. Please come to the stage so that we can present Cameron with her award. Thank you. Come on up, Cameron. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. But now I'd like to ask Carrie Lee from BMO to come to the stage and say a few words. Everybody, a warm welcome for BMO for being our sponsor for tonight's event. Welcome. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carrie Lee, and I'm the head of business management for the digital team at BMO. And I'm also the global chair for the Asian Coalition of Employees, which is an employee resource group that is dedicated to supporting the personal and professional development of our Asian colleagues at the bank. I'm really honored to be here to celebrate this really historic event with all of you. Although my background is Chinese, I have to admit that I didn't really have a lot of appreciation of the magnitude of this part of our country's history until I started learning more, which really just goes to show how important education and awareness is for everybody. So with this new understanding, I'm really proud to be working for BMO, which is one of the first major Canadian banks to start actively partnering with our Chinese Canadian community to ensure that they have the financial resources to be successful in business and in life. With one example being our support of the Vancouver's Chinese community since the time of the railroad being built. For those who spoke Chinese as their first language, it was really intimidating for them to be handing over their hard-earned money to people who didn't speak the language. And so at BMO, we ensured that we included members from the Chinese community on staff so that they can help the Chinese customers to do their daily banking. And recently, BMO donated $1 million to the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation towards the creation of the Chinatown Storytelling Center to share stories of early Chinese immigrants whose resilience played a critical role in the completion of the railroad that's uniting our country today. We're really honored and proud to be an important part of Canada's history, and we look forward to continuing to support the communities that we live and work in. We hope that you enjoy the rest of this evening and to really celebrate and pay tribute to the Chinese pioneers and the legacy that they have. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kingsley Kwok. Kingsley Kwok from the Chinese Workers Network. Kingsley Kwok is also a member of the OPSU Racialized Workers Network. They placed an advertisement here in our book, and the Racialized Workers Network had me out as a keynote speaker, the same keynote that you're going to hear tonight at the end of the evening. So sit tight, folks. Thank you very much, Kingsley. Kingsley is a loyal supporter of the foundation, and he comes every single year to the morning wreath laying ceremony. Thank you, Kingsley.
Thank you, Landy. 大家好，加拿大國慶日安康。Chinese Workers Network provide a safe community for Chinese workers to discuss, share notes on their working conditions and how to improve their working conditions. It's interesting to compare what happened 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, when immigrants, got recruited by big companies to work dangerous jobs, working with explosives or hazardous materials, and not have recourse for workers' safety insurance or a Ministry of Labor to go after any violation of employment standards. And if you die, you might be stuck getting buried next to the railroad because no one's going to tell your family back home. Well, 100 years later, it seems like whether you're a migrant worker, a temporary foreign worker, a gig worker, some of these issues still remain. They may not be Chinese, but they might be from Jamaica, they may be indigenous, they may be from the Philippines. And so Chinese Workers Network, whether working with migrants from the People's Republic of China or from other countries in the world, we stand in solidarity and we support each other for workers' rights, employment standards, minimum wage, workers' safety, occupational health, and all that. And I think, Landy, that's my 2 minutes. Anyway, 加拿大國慶日安康 Happy Canada Day. I want to say that the Prime Minister apologized for the head tax and the Exclusion Act, so I think I can still say happy Canada Day because we can go forward and be proud that we have a government that recognizes the injustice, whether it is to the indigenous people or to the Chinese people. Thank you, Landy. Thank you to the foundation.
Michael was previously the president of the Law Association and the former chair of the Law Society of Ontario. Thank you and welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Landy. I won't repeat what I said this morning already. Just to say that my grandfather came when he was a teenager, and because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, we weren't able to come. Well, I was at least my grandmother wasn't able to come. My mother wasn't able to come until the act was abolished in the late 60s, and then they started come. So when we start to talk about the anguish and the danger and all that endurance they had to put up with, there was also, as you can imagine, the loneliness, right? The pressure, and thinking about family. Don't forget, they didn't come here just for work. They had to send money home for their family and so on. So there were a lot of pressure on them, and a lot of them actually pay a lot of money to come here too, so they had to repay those loans as well. And so mental anguish, I can imagine, as now as the chair of the Mental Health Foundation, I could appreciate the stress they were in, the loneliness and the pressure that they have to go through as a single person. And as I said also earlier this morning, is surprisingly, you see all the Exclusion Acts and so on, and head tax, but the indigenous community actually reached out their hands to help the Chinese youth when they were working for us. That's obviously a testimony. And I think that's important for us to note that, the Chinese community, these Chinese workers, pay a big price to help us build this nation of ours, the railroad, but the only thanks they got was, well, you've done your work, and you now leave. Just imagine that, right? And after a lot of hard work, a lot of them gave their lives, and that's the thanks they got. And so it's really important to understand that. Just a little bit of side note. I'm from Kaisan, and so when they came to China to look for workers, they came to southern China and recruited them. Some of them went to San Francisco for gold mining, and others went to Canada to build railroad. But the important thing is that so Ma in Chinese is horse, and when the railroad was finished, they all settled around Calgary and the other side of the Rockies. And so in the Chinese community, Calgary is actually referred to as the barn in those days because all the horses were there. Thank you.
singing this morning. I just asked her 5 minutes ago to sing with me, and she said yes. So please give a big round of applause for her bravery. Thank you. And of course, please feel free to sing along with many words. So tomorrow will be better. Today is already a whole lot better than how things used to be. But tomorrow will be even better for all
speaker is the chair of the organizing committee, Tin Chung. If it wasn't for Tin and Derek sitting beside each other at a community event, they hatched the idea to have this evening. The foundation for 34 years has hosted a memorial wreath-laying ceremony. We've never had a formal dinner like this before. Thank you to Tin. Come on up.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. On behalf of my organizing committee, Chantal Lee, Santio, volunteer Wilson Louis, and the foundation, thank you for being with us today. Hello again to those who were with us at the monument earlier this morning to honor our nation builders, the Chinese railroad workers. Here is my disclaimer, okay? I know I am in a room filled with many giants, lawyers, teachers, advocates, doctors, senators, MPs, authors, your regional armed forces, Canadian armed forces. We are all here today. So we all know a lot about our history, the head tax. And I'm not going to talk about that tonight because I'm not an expert in that area. What I wanted to point out is many of you here tonight are also descendants of head taxpayer or railroad workers. Even though our history in Canada did not start off well, but looking around the room tonight, we are quite impressive crowd. Our pioneers have shown us how to succeed. Hard work, perseverance, and education. No matter what they have legislated against us, we are thriving. We are here. We are here to stay. We also demonstrated that we are contributing citizens, so will our children and grandchildren be. My only child just graduated from university last week from mechanical engineering, and he is in the Canadian Armed Force, sitting at the back of the room. He will continue on with his master's program, and I have been in Canada for only a mere 20 years. So imagine those like Tom Chan. Tom Chan, where is he? Tom Chan, whose family history in Canada can be traced back to almost 150 years. You can believe my shock when I got the copy of the head tax certificate for the commemorative book. 5 generations in Canada. How much this room and beyond this room have given back to our country. Thank you, everyone. I was in the Senate 2 weeks ago at the commemorative event with Landy Anderson for the 100th anniversary of the passing of the Chinese Immigration Act of 1923. Thank you, ACCT, Senator Victor O, Senator Wu, Judge Albert Wong, and many others who organized that very special event and rally in Ottawa. Everything that I have learned in the last 7 months began to fall into place for me. Someone said, Canada in 1920 is different in 1940, is different in 2006, and is definitely different today. I was so moved and appreciated Canada that it has recognized its errors, even though it took a while, and it also has apologized for the mistakes, for the many mistakes. I have learned that there are many unjust histories in the world that cannot be corrected in one day. Time changes, institutions must change as well, as we are living in a transnational society where all diversities are celebrated under the Multiculturalism Act. I left the Hill that day feeling hopeful and counted my blessings as a Canadian, and gratitude seeped gradually over me. For the wrong our pioneers have endured, that I, that we can enjoy the Canada of today. Now that we know our past, it is incumbent upon us that we must continue to push for change, for a better and equitable Canada for all Canadians. We must continue to do our best, unite in time of crisis, and be alert and act if there is a risk of any infringement on our rights. We must educate our children well, and as Dr. Wong said earlier, we must also encourage them to stand for office and to enter politics for our survival, for our representation. Each generation's success, in my opinion, is the best tribute we can give to our pioneers, our nation builders, the railroad workers. On behalf of FCCRWC and the organizing committee, thank you for being here once again. Your presence tonight is the collective strength that we can all draw from as we march forward to a new beginning, to the next 100 years of prosperity and equality in Canada. Thank you!
Listen, they told me as the MC that I couldn't do, I've been yelling at people for the last year planning this party, and so they told me, I'm the MC, that I couldn't drop F-bombs, I couldn't yell at them, I wasn't supposed to wear running shoes. They didn't say that I couldn't drink though, so be careful. But anyways, so thank you to Tin for those beautiful words. I love she used the word marching. She's the mother of a soldier. And thank you to the Canadian Armed Force staff officers for being in the room and for being with us this morning to raise the Canadian flag and to lay those wreaths at the foot of our monument so respectfully. Thank you. A round of applause for our soldiers. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we've got a lot of people in this room that carry guns, and the next person is Police Officer Staff Sergeant Stephen Yan. So I'm going to ask Stephen Yan to come to the mic. Stephen, thank you. And let's have a few words from Stephen. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is so great to be able to gather as we honor and pay tribute to the rich legacy of Canadians of Asian and Chinese heritage. As Canadians, we are truly fortunate to live in a country where we can seize the many opportunities for cross-cultural learning that exist within our own communities. As individuals, we all grow when we celebrate the contributions Asian Canadians have made both to our region and our country, especially our Chinese railroad workers. We remain grateful for the strong partnerships we share with the many community groups and organizations that showcase the rich tradition and history of Asian culture. The important contributions of Asian Canadians, both past and present, have strengthened the multicultural fabric of our community as a whole. Canada would not be the same if not for these contributions. I'm here today to represent York Regional Police and to thank the Foundation to commemorate the Chinese railway workers in Canada for bringing awareness to this legislation in the past. This piece of history allows us to learn about our past and to create a community that is safe and inclusive for everyone. Thank you to the Foundation and everyone here supporting them tonight, and have a great Canada Day.
2 minutes. So appreciated. Thank you, Stephen. Round of applause for our guy for following the rules. I love it. Stephen is not a rule breaker. Okay? And if you didn't know about the head tax or the Chinese railroad workers before today, I'm telling you, you've been saturated. Andrea, come on up and have some greetings. We're on the home turf of the Toronto and the York Region Labour Council. If these councils had been around during the building of the railway system, maybe 4,000 people wouldn't have died. Okay? So our Labour people are in the room. We've got OPSU in the room. We've got the Toronto York Region Labour Council in the room. I love these people. They protect the working man, or the working person. I gotta watch my language up here. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.
Good evening everyone. Please don't make me sing for you. Okay, so again, I just want to say, just to remind you, if anyone did not hear, I'm Andrea Babington, the president of the Toronto and York Region Labour Council. And it's an honor to be here with you this evening. I want to reflect on this morning. Starting this morning, I was at the ceremony and witnessing the lion dance, so many speeches, and laying of the wreath to mark your journey. A path filled with obstacles, with challenges, segregation, and denying your worth. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. When I first arrived in Canada, I worked in the hospitality sector. My co-workers was mostly immigrants. They came from across the globe, looking for better life for their families, filled with dreams and aspirations, but was faced with exploitation by their employer, the government, and sometimes corporations. With every opportunity, they get to remind immigrants that they are the backbone of the industry and the vast profits they made to the sector of this country. Year after year, we remind ourselves that it's not the kind of life we hope for ourselves, our family, but we force ourselves to be thankful that we are here. I became active in my union when I saw the injustices in workplace and my community. And as leader of the council, I continue to mobilize to stand against economic injustice, social injustice, climate injustice, and racial injustice. Despite your journey of 100 years, you still face the rise of hate and inequality. But you are not alone in this fight for justice. This year, we mark, as a Labour Council, 152 years that this council fought alongside working men and women in the workplace and in our community to fight for justice and a better standard of living. We recognize that workers need their voices. So the Labour Council formed several networks like the Filipino, the Ethiopian, Eritrean, and also the Chinese Workers Network. And it's an opportunity for us to work and to embrace, and for you to embrace your voice and your culture in this movement. And as that saying goes, we are strong as our weakest link. The Labour Council look forward to work with the Chinese community as we build workers, community, and political power for all. Our Labour Council speak up against anti-Asian racism, anti-indigenous racism, anti-black racism, and all forms of hate and bigotry. And our Labour Council is committed to help dismantle systemic racism in our society, and what we commonly say is an injury to one is an injury to all. And so Labour stand with you in this fight, and I thank you for this opportunity to join you again today, Canada Day, July 1st, to commemorate the contribution of Chinese railroad workers who built this railroad and that connect this country to celebrate 100 years of movement and to bring us together with promise of change for humanity. I want to thank you again for having me here with you this evening. And I want to say on behalf of the Toronto York Region Labour Council and our 220,000 affiliates, solidarity.
Solidarity, sister. That Alfred agreed to match however much was donated in the box. And the donation in the box was $1,347. So Alfred is going to match that. That's the equivalent of $2,694. I don't see Alfred right now, but I'm going to come back to him and to present him with a certificate of appreciation. So thank you everybody for that good fundraising effort, and thank you to Bio Seaweed Gel for the Bio Seaweed Gel girls to collect those donations. We will, at the end of the night, raffle off the 2 pieces of art, and I have 3 books that were donated from Plum Leaf. And so that will happen at the end of the night. And so we're at almost at our last speaker. We're gonna have a song by Joe. Then we're gonna have our last speaker. And then I'm gonna give you a short keynote presentation. And so you're my classroom. And then we're gonna end with the cutest little video, okay? So come on up, Joe. Let's have
这首歌是王峰唱的《飞得更高》。现实就像一把枷锁，把我绑住。
the oldest living head taxpayer on June 22, 2006, on the day of our Prime Minister's apology for the head tax. Come on up, Leo.
This morning, I wrote a very powerful and emotional speech. It is called The Last Spike, 6 Degrees of Separation and Racism. My name is Leo Ng. I was born in Toronto in 1969. When I was a young child growing up in Mississauga in the 70s, I felt confused, different, and alone. There weren't many people that looked like me, and the racists didn't help. I was an innocent boy, being called horrific names like chink, nip, and foreigner. It wasn't until my cousin Brett Chan and I discovered Bruce Lee. Then we had a hero. He liked to fight, and so did I. He made me feel 2 feet taller. And by the looks of some of the gong-gongs and poo-poos in here, I still feel 2 feet taller. Ayya! This is what it's like, okay? Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be like water, my friend, said the immortal Bruce Lee on the Pierre Burton Show in 1971. Ironically, my gung-gung, Ralph Lee, received the last spike on the Redress Express on the same railroad he helped build, donated as a symbolic gesture of goodwill bestowed by Mr. Burton. I was there in 2006, accompanying him and the last spike on our way to Ottawa. At the time, he was 106, the oldest of 6 still living head taxpayers. He adopted to his new country, married, fathered 3 children, became a self-made, successful businessman, like water, and lived to an amazing 107 years old. Today, we honor him and the thousands of Chinese who were impacted by the Chinese Exclusion Act signed 100 years ago today, also known as Shane Day. Currently, I run my own successful asphalt business, recently got married to my beautiful wife, Barbara Ng, and embraced my Chinese background. My cousin, Brett Chan, works with Bruce Lee's family as a fight and stunt coordinator on HBO shows Warrior. Those who know me well know I like to fight. But I fight for all the Chinese, those who came before and those who will come after me. And in closing, be proud. Fight for what you believe in. Help your community. And most importantly, be like water. Gotcha.
was awesome, bro. Awesome. Love you too, bro. That was awesome. Brother Leo Ing. I love it. And I love that you promoted Cousin Brett. On HBO, if you watch Warrior, it's based on Bruce Lee's writing, and it is the most accurate depiction of the 1800s and the building of the railway. And he reimagines the Chinese laborer as the hero. And the fight scenes from Cousin Brett are beyond this world. So everyone, check it out. This is a plug for Warrior, Bruce Lee's Warrior on Crave. Okay, so now we're going to have the keynote address and a short film. Video. When I play this video, it's going to be an earworm, and I've left it for the very end because I want you to all go home and sing this song after you hear it. So now let's have the keynote address. Thank you. So this is Hidden Histories, and it's mostly because this year is the year of the rabbit. In the Chinese zodiac, the rabbit represents hope. And in the indigenous community, the rabbit is also very special because Nanabush often takes the form of the coyote, the raven, or the rabbit. So for those that have heard this keynote address, Kingsley and the BMO group invited me to be a keynote. 700 people were in the room for this keynote address, so I'm sorry you've had it already. So this is the year of the rabbit, the year of hope. Thank you. And as you know already, I'm mixed heritage, Chinese and indigenous. And my Chinese name is Nukme, that's beautiful jade. And my indigenous spirit name is Boshwana Dewa Haikin, and that means I bring the drum or I bring balance. My Métis community is Gaspé Peninsula, Lower St. Lawrence, and Magdalen Islands Métis Aboriginal Nation, and that's in Quebec. So our grandfather, as my brother mentioned, was not part of the early railroad crews that enabled the last fight to be hammered, but he worked on the railway to expand and maintain it. We're so proud that he was alive for the day of the apology. But let me tell you folks, only 6 living head taxpayers were there to receive it. 80,000 paid the head tax. We paid to build the railway. $500 for 80,000 people at that time was the equivalent of 2 houses. So we built that railway not only with our labor and our blood and sweat, but also we funded it. So these are some of the people that have invited me out to be a keynote speak. OPSU, Coalition of Racialized Workers, BMO, the York Regional Police, Asian Coalition of Employees, 1,000 Lanterns over there at FCCRWC. Thank you. It's so important to know that the Chinese community stands in solidarity with our Indigenous brethren. So during our time together, I told you already I teach part-time at Trent University. So you're in my classroom. Unlike Arlene, who's a beautiful storyteller and puts a bunch of pictures up there, I'm going to put up references and I'm going to use APA, so I'm sorry. Anyways, go ahead. Our time together is just basically, as it's a primer, I'm just going to scratch the surface on how these relationships were formed. So here is Bill Paul. He's a member of Lytton First Nation out in BC. Bill's holding up this shovel and left over from the miners after they had mined for gold on the Fraser Valley. And this is evidence that we were there. And it's a reminder of how we mined for gold, how we intermingled. And there was a newspaper article, and the author, the reporter, quoted Mrs. Kwan. Mrs. Kwan says, "This is a beautiful story. We need to know it and honor it. How in the face of hardship, these beautiful relationships were formed." So this is a picture of a Chinese work gang in the late 1800s, in 1889, and that's basically showing you the primitive way that our Chinese ancestors were housed and how they worked on the railway. And look at those beautiful pictures. It's so mountainous. If anyone's ever been out to Western Canada, it is beautiful. It's spectacular. And they were brought over for the most treacherous parts of the railway system. And this is in BC. Thank you. It's important to recognize that our Chinese and Indigenous communities have shared histories. And so our shared histories We faced hardships together. We mined for gold and we intermingled. We faced that rugged Canadian weather. Come on, this was in Rogers Pass. That's on the tip of avalanche country out there. And there were many graves on the First Nations land and the reserves, because what happened when the Chinese people just fell off the cliffs, or we died from this unstable dynamite, we died from poor nutrition, and the First Nations people looked after us. Anti-Chinese sentiment was so strong that they actually created societies were formed to discriminate against Chinese people. And when our Chinese ancestors were buried, the locals would dig up the graves and toss them aside. We had to have our burials at night. They'd still toss those bodies aside, but our First Nation brethren, they invited us onto the First Nation, and we had our burials there. And to this day, there are many places that First Nations honor and care for our ancestors and their bones. And so this is a picture of younger me, or I say skinnier me, and this is a Chinese war veteran, Mary. And I met Mary in the community during Asian Heritage Month, and Mary told me that her grandfather was a watchmaker out west, and that he actually learned to speak the language of the local First Nations so that he could do business with them. Because remember, all that anti-Chinese sentiment, actually there was law. It was called the white woman law. White women were not allowed to work in the Chinese restaurants or in the Chinese laundries. And think about it, 17,000 men, the youngest, strongest men, are brought over from China. On the day of the hammering of the last spike, they're destitute, they're homeless, they can't speak the language, and their wives and children are left behind. So what could they do? The only thing they could do, laundry and restaurants. And because white women, the white women law, you can look it up, forbade them from working in the restaurants and the laundry, Indigenous women worked there. That's why 1 of every 6 Chinese men in the late 1800s started a family with an Indigenous woman. So back to the shared values. Here we are. We share reciprocity. The Chinese dealt in reciprocal ways with First Nations. We didn't take, we asked, we brought gifts, we shared our foods, we did relationship building, respect. The First Nations drove off everybody off of on the gold mines. Because remember, we came over to get a better life for ourselves after the Japanese War as well. People were coming over here prior to the Japanese War. People were coming here chasing Gold Mountain because they wanted to get a better life for themselves. Gumsan. And so based on the respectful relationships, everybody else was driven off the land except for our Chinese ancestors. They were allowed to stay on the land and mine for gold. Storytelling. Our elders keep our history and pass it down. Here's a quote from a Chinese elder. He says, "We're learning the history of this country from the mouths of Indigenous people." And I love this. There's an article, one of the contributors talked about Chinese cowgirls. And it's one of the first articles in the black side of the book, because remember, this is an upside down book with no beginning and no end. And that contributor, I want to meet her and maybe one day make a documentary. So when I knock on your door for more money, when we have an actual fundraiser, we'll be making a documentary. Maybe it'll be Chinese cowgirls. But these are Indigenous people in BC's gold rush, and these are Chinese people in the same Chinese prospectors. And what happened is, like any good relationship, everyone came over and First Nations people helped them. They helped them learn to navigate the land and how to fish and how to hunt and the waterways. And they became guides and they helped with the food and the farming. But then with any good thing, the more prospectors came, then Indigenous people began to be terrorized on their own land from the colonizers, and now from the immigrant community that was racing over here. And so it ended up not being a good thing in the end. Next. And so this just, I'm going to talk about the oppression of the Chinese community, and then I'll parallel that to the Indigenous community. So to succeed and survive, the Chinese forged relationships with the province's First Nations. So this is just a quick overview of, we lost our right to vote, and then we had a head tax, And that didn't stop us, so that was increased. And then we were prohibited from Chinese immigration altogether on July 1st, 1923, 100 years ago. And there was one part in our history in 1921 when the government actually tried to segregate Chinese children into specific schools. But the Chinese community resisted, and the Chinese parents all got together and they hid their kids, and they refused to let their kids be segregated. The indigenous people, we know from residential school history, they were not successful. But the Chinese community was successful because we came together and we fought the system and we protected our children. Next. When the young Chinese men were separated, 17,000 were recruited over here, and then 80,000 paid the head tax altogether. On July 1st, 1923, think about those 80,000 young bachelor men. They were lonely. Here's a poem, and it's a lamentation of a Chinese worker. It's the Song of Gold Mountain. Ever since I've arrived in Gold Mountain, not one day I dare forget my family. My mind is chaotic, like hemp fibers, with constant thought of home. Each meal is hard to swallow because of sorrow. My dear woman, don't ever think your husband has betrayed your love. It's hard enough to share my words with you in dreams. My tongue tightened. And again, back to that work that Michael Ma does in the Chinese community to address mental health. Think about the despair and depression, the loneliness and grief that these 80,000 men faced. So, as you know, every July 1st, you don't even need an invitation, just show up at 4 Blue Jays Way. There's our monument at the foot of Rogers Centre. And this is why I love Canada. Apart from our dark and complex history, Canada apologized. We did the right thing, and so that means something. So our monument is dedicated to commemorating the Chinese railroad workers who were recruited for the sole purpose of taking on the most difficult and treacherous work of building the Rocky Mountain section of the CPR. They left their families behind to toil for Canada. And that's why we remember them. And there's a picture, I'm so proud of that, to Sun Teo for laying out this book. It's spectacular. Can we give a round of applause? Look at it. These are posters. She made these posters. She made the cover of the book, and it speaks for itself. And I think when people saw that such a beautiful poster, this event sold out literally within minutes. And it's so important what we're doing today. Thank you for that. Okay, next. Now, this is, I would like to thank Senator Victor O for organizing the ceremony in the Senate chambers on June 23rd. And Senator O invited the foundation, and the ceremony was organized by Victor O and by Honorable Wu, Senator from British Columbia, in partnership with ACCT, or ACT, which is Action Chinese Canadians Together. So thank you to Judge Albert Wong for being the co-chair and for inviting the foundation. Thank you. Thank you to Senator O and to Judge Albert Wong. Thank you. They're here with us tonight, and I'm so proud to have been there. So the ceremony included this unveiling of a very special plaque where it's going to rest in the very first Chinese Canadian Museum in British Columbia that's opening today on the 100th year. I'd like to read the plaque. On July 1st, 1923, Canada prohibited Chinese immigration. The Chinese Immigration Act 1923, the Chinese Exclusion Act, was the culmination of anti-Chinese racism and policies, including the high taxes which it replaced. All Chinese persons living in Canada, even those born here, had to register with the government or risk fines, detainment, or deportation. The act impeded family reunification, community development, social integration, and economic equality. Chinese Canadian men and women successfully challenged this law, leading to its repeal in 1947. Still, their fight to dismantle racist immigration restrictions continues. Thank you, Senator Rowe. Thank you, Albert Wong, for this plaque and for the ceremony. Next. Look at this. We were all there, and you can only fit so many people in the Senate, but there I am, right there. I want to get a big yellow arrow and point. I was part of history, but I got to slow down, so I have all these great ideas, and sometimes they're great in my head until I say them out loud. Anyways, so that's the parallel history. So in our Chinese community, you could see the legislated oppression and think about the trickle-down impacts of that. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Hot water. Paul cha. Thank you. So then, this is, I'm not going to go through the history lesson, and I teach an Indigenous child and family well-being course at Trent University. So this is Indigenous child removal systems, every single part of our history. 1876 from the Indian Act, the residential school, the 60s scoop, the millennium scoop. If you design all these systems to remove children from their families in the Indigenous community, it means that First Nations children are 3 to 4 times more likely to be reported for a child welfare concern, and 17 times more likely, I repeat, 17 times more likely to be placed in an out-of-home child protection care. So that means in Canada, 53.8% of foster children in Canada are Indigenous. But Indigenous children only represent 7.7% of the population. So that is the intergenerational trauma and the impact of oppressive paradigms, and that's how it plays out. We're meeting today, and thank you. I don't want to call you guys the hanger-ons because everyone else just left, but you are committed people to sit here through this marathon of speeches. I want a round of applause. Thank you. I think if you're still here listening intently, clapping appropriately at certain phrases. Anyways, so I'm going to bring this presentation to a close, but I want to consider why we're here today. So we're here today because the Chinese community, we're here and we support the Indigenous community, and we stand in solidarity with our Indigenous brethren, and we understand what it means to have faced legislated racism by our government, and we know the impacts of that. Not to the same extent as our Indigenous brothers and sisters, but we still know that and we recognize that. So this is why I want to end with a picture of my own family as a symbol of hope. And my husband grew up in care in Canada's infamous 60s scoop as an Indigenous child in care who survived the 60s scoop. And my family and my husband's family have the influences of the church and or the residential school in our bloodlines. On my husband's side of the family, every living generation has either been in residential school or in child welfare care. So these are my children, and I'm so proud that they're here at the Ralph Lee table. But these children here, and they're at BMO, and they're at Bio-Seaweed Gel. This is my family. But all of Canada is my family. We are one family, one heartbeat, the heartbeat of Mother Earth. This is one family here. And this is my family, my daughter at Bio-Seaweed Gel, Ralph Lee and BMO. And these are my children. And so these children, for the first time, have never, ever been in residential school in the Anderson bloodline or in children's aid care. And so I think it's important. It's taken so long to break the cycle, but it can be done with love and with kindness and with hope. Exactly what today's event represents. Just like the 1,000 Lanterns event that represents peace, hope, and friendship. Today, your Love in the Room represents hope. So now as I bring this to a close, this for sure is the last thing that we're putting on the agenda before we say goodnight. And then we're going to play this song. Trust me, it's going to be a little earworm all night long. You're going to be humming it. We're going to have draws, and then with anyone that wants to come up, we'd love to do table pictures, one table at a time. Come up and get pictures with us, and we will put them on our website, and we'll put them. We'll take it with a piece of history. Nobody has seen this proclamation signed by the delegates of King Charles. So now we're going to play. This is Paul Finkelman from Alberta.
When the Canadian Pacific Railroad was born, you heard the names of Sir John A. Macdonald and William Van Horn, but you rarely hear the mention of 10,000 Chinese men who gave their lives to build the rails through the Rockies way back when. They were the unsung heroes of our history, the unsung heroes, treated like zeros, the unsung heroes of our history. They gave those Chinese men the toughest jobs to push the railroad through, doing dangerous work that no white man would do. They blasted holes in massive mountains using tons of dynamite, braving perilous rocky cliffs on freezing winter nights. These men were unsung heroes, the unsung heroes of our history, the unsung heroes, treated like zeros, the unsung heroes of our history. Through the Rocky Mountains, the railway took its toll, built on the backs of hundreds of the hardest working souls. Yes, the CPR was grand, but at what human cost? For every mile of track, they say, 4 Chinese lives were lost. These men were the unsung heroes of our history, the unsung heroes, treated worse than zeros, the unsung heroes of our history. When the railroad was finished, the men were somewhat free. Some moved off to Vancouver or on to Calgary, but they never were accepted and they still got dirty looks. So they took whatever few jobs they could as kitchen help or cooks. From the time they came to Canada and first stepped on this land, the Chinese people rarely felt a warm or welcoming hand. But we've grown and become a nation where people can be free to live and give and be a part of a community. And we salute those unsung heroes, the unsung heroes of our history, the unsung heroes, treated like zeros, the unsung heroes of our history.
Thank you everybody. So now we're going to draw. Victor, Senator O, can you come up? We're going to draw the prizes.
I am the daughter of Andy Anderson. My spirit name is She Who Speaks the Thunder. I'm from Alderville Reservation, and I am the great-granddaughter of Ralph Von Keeve. I painted these paintings of the Thunderbirds for actually me and my sister. This one over here represents me. This is because my spirit name is Speaks the Thunder. This Thunderbird here is actually, let me just tell you the story of Thunderbirds. So Thunderbirds are, they create the lightning and the thunder with their big wings. They flap them, they're very colorful. And when they flap their wings, it creates the sound of the thunder. The lightning comes from their eyes, and that's what we see when we see the lightning. It's the Thunderbirds, the rays of lightning from the Thunderbird's eyes. Anyway, so this is Dancing Lightning for my sister, and this is Speaks of Thunder for me, and that's really all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator O, if you could pull the ticket, which one is going first? Okay. So what's the name of that piece of art?
Dancing Lightning.
Dancing Lightning. Okay. The winner of Dancing Lightning is 575-68808. Hey, dancing. There we go. Over there. Come on up. Oh, Mei Ling. Oh, Mei Ling, I'm so happy for you. That's beautiful. Mei Ling, congratulations. And this is acrylic art on wood panel from an Indigenous artist from Alderville First Nation. That's a Mississauga Ojibwe Reserve on Rice Lake. Congratulations. There we go. Congratulations. What a beautiful piece of art. And beautiful. Mei Ling is a reporter from Kids Canada. She's been with us all day, and now she has a piece of art. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you to Kids Canada for being with us all day and reporting. The media has been so supportive of our events. Thank you. Thank you. And Victor, the second prize. Yes, all the tickets. The lucky number 8, 575-68894. Who do we have? Oh, beautiful, from the Ma table. That is beautiful, thank you. Come on up and receive your prize.